Well, let's introduce our vocalist. Tell them your name and what you do.
My name's Steve. I've sang in a couple different hardcore metal bands. The last band I was in was a band called Open Fire. You can check us out on Bandcamp. I also played bass guitar in some other bands, and that's about it.
He's going to help us out today because what we're going to be talking about is vocal production. And when you're talking about vocal production, you kind of need vocals. All right, so let's start with what really matters. The first thing I want to make apparent is that 5% of the whole vocal production is pretty much the microphone and what the producer does. But I would say 95% of it is the actual person standing in front of the microphone. So it all starts with a good vocalist. And you can only polish a turd so far. If you've got someone who's not the greatest vocalist in the world, they probably won't sound like the greatest vocalist in the world. But that's all right. Be prepared. So what I want to stress about this, and I'm going to tell you a story, is this is something that happens to a lot of people in bands that are active, touring and things like that. So when a band goes on a tour, they're out on the road for like a month or 2 months at a time, and they're singing every single night, pretty much the same time every night. And then when they get off tour, they want to take a break. And a lot of times bands will be set up so that they have this long tour schedule, then they have a break, and then they start an album. And this seems to happen to me all the time, but the bands get off tour, they have a break, and they stop singing the 6 weeks before they come into the studio. And then when they come in, their voices crack and break, and they have all these problems. So it's really important to communicate with your clients and tell them, hey, before you get in here, I want to make sure that you guys are doing vocals every single day. Even if you're not on the road, even if you're not playing shows, get in your car, drive somewhere, and sing to some CDs or something like that. Because the voice is a muscle. So if you don't use it, it starts to become weak. Also, big thing, do not change your habits the day you start recording. You get a lot of people come in and say, I'm going to quit smoking, I'm going to start drinking tea, I'm going to eat healthy, I won't do any dairy anymore. They do all these weird things. They like psych themselves out and they get in the studio and do all this stuff, and then they wonder why they sound like crap. It's because you changed all of your daily habits. That's not a good idea. Nothing that you do is going to make you sing better than just practicing your craft and getting good at it. The other thing is, I see a lot of people trying to cram stuff down their throat and hope that it makes their voice cleaner, like honey and all these little things. I hate to break it to you, but you can't get anything on your vocal cords, because if you could, you would choke. So even though you're swallowing all this stuff, it's not touching your vocal cords at all. Your voice box is behind all of that. So there's really nothing you can do other than, just learning how to sing. Speaking of learning how to sing, the Zen of screaming. I want to mention that because Melissa Cross is a genius when it comes to the vocal techniques and vocal cords in general. And I just want to recommend anyone who is trying to figure out, not only how to sing better, if you're a singer and you want to learn how to sing better, or a screamer. You could also, if you're a producer, I think it's good to get into Melissa Cross, because then you can learn how the vocal cords actually work and know what kind of suggestions to give your clients when they're having trouble hitting high notes or doing certain types of vocals. You know what to tell them to do in the studio, because you've learned from Melissa Cross. Now, this last point, I would have killed to have my $400 Audio-Technica on those takes. Let's talk about this. So this is a cool story that I have to tell. I was working on an album, and the band decided to do parts of this album in different studios. We did a lot of it in my studio, but then we would travel and go to different studios to do certain things. And this was a really cool opportunity because it was one of the first times I got to go to a really awesome studio and experiment with more gear than I had in my own arsenal. So we go to this studio and they have pretty much anything that you could ever dream of. And they're like asking me, hey, what kind of vocal mic do you want to use today? And I'm looking at the engineer and I'm like, well, what do you have? And he shows me their collection, and it's basically every mic you could ever dream of. And I was like, well, what do you guys use? It was a studio where Linkin Park had recorded before, and I knew that before we went in. So I was like, what kind of mic did you guys use on Linkin Park? And he's like, oh, we use this one. It's a U47. So I'm like, cool, let's use that. That sounds awesome. Let's just hear what it sounds like. So we set it all up, and while he's putting it on the stand, I'm looking online to see how much it's worth. And these things are rare. I think they were made around the World War II era, and they're like $15,000 a piece. So it's a crazy microphone. And he sets it all up, and we record, we get the vocalist in there, and he starts singing through the mic, and I'm like, oh yeah, it sounds pretty cool, I'm just in the moment, trying to get everything ready to go. And the vocalist is on, he's on a strict schedule, so he comes in, he sings a song, and he leaves, and you only have like a short window of time to just capture all that stuff. So we did what we could. And then 3 weeks later, I go back to my studio, and I open the files, and I start listening to all the stuff that we recorded, and I'm like, this sounds like crap. And it did. It sounded like an old microphone, and that's what it was. It's an old microphone. You can see a picture of it on the right there. And I was just saying to myself, man, I would have killed to have, the takes were great. The song was awesome. The takes were magical. One of the best songs the band has ever done. And I would have killed to have my $400 microphone on that track. So the point is, it's not your gear, it's your ear, coming back to that. So let's talk a little bit about actually setting up the mic and how to do that properly. So the first thing is you have to understand how a microphone works, and a microphone has a capsule. And the way sound works is it travels through the air and it hits that capsule, and the capsule moves, and it converts that into electrical energy. Now, certain sounds that come out of your mouth have more or less amounts of air than others do. And so we've come up with what we call a pop filter, which you can place in front of the microphone, which stops some of those gusts of wind from hitting the capsule and causing it to make like pops and clicks and other kind of sounds that we don't like. I prefer to use a metal style pop filter. I don't like the cloth ones. I feel like the cloth ones kind of darken the sound a little bit. I could be wrong, but that's just what I think. I like the metal ones because to me they sound more clear and they're easier to set up. And they also don't get, you can clean them off when somebody spits all over and it gets kind of gross. The metal ones are a lot easier to clean. And it also helps to reduce the proximity effect, which can happen. You can overload your your vocal compressor or your preamp, or even the microphone itself can be overloaded if you don't have a pop filter. So I'm going to show you how the metal pop filter actually works, and then we'll go out and demonstrate it. But first, let's just take a look at this graphic. So we've got the singer, and then the pop filter between the singer and the microphone, and then the microphone. What happens is the gust of wind comes out of the mouth and hits the pop filter, and then each little tiny hole on the pop filter is angled at 45 degrees down. So when a gust of wind comes through the pop filter, it actually goes underneath the microphone and avoids hitting the capsule, which helps to prevent from getting this big like bass sound that you don't want. So it redirects the air downward. So at this time, I guess we'll actually go out and show what that looks like.
Yeah.
So let's do it.
Awesome.
Let's get this lower, actually. So one of the first things when you're working with someone for the first time, you want to adjust it to their height, obviously. You want to get their mouth in line with the capsule. And you might get somebody who moves around a little bit and they like to bounce up and down and stuff, so you just try to find the happy point. I like to keep about a hand distance from the microphone to the pop filter, do like a hand distance away, like this, and then also another hand distance between the pop filter and you. So I don't want you getting up really close to the pop filter and touching it with your mouth. One, that's gross. And two, that will actually eliminate the purpose of the pop filter. So you need a little space for the air to travel from his mouth like to the pop filter. And then once it comes through here, it will actually go like this. It'll start going down. Do we have a lighter? Does anyone have a lighter? Because I can demonstrate this.
Yeah, Sam's got it.
Cool. So I'm just going to turn it like this real quick, just so you can see. So if I go, see it doesn't, can you see that? So that's basically what it's doing, is it's preventing the air from hitting this capsule too harshly. There you go. Now there's a lot of different microphones that you can use. I think we have the AT4033. I really love that microphone. It's a fairly inexpensive microphone. It works great, but you're gonna sometimes get you get certain vocalists who sound kind of weird through that. So you might try like maybe an SM7B. This is a pretty popular microphone. Was used to record the Black Album by Metallica and also Thriller. So it's not like, once again, it's not about the gear. It's just about how you interact and how you use the gear. So how like the vocalist interacts with the different kind of mics. I always say just try different mics and see what they sound like. Hook them all up, do a couple vocal passages. Do you like the way it sounds? I mean, in the end, that's all that matters, is the final product. It doesn't matter how you get there. So occasionally I'll try like 2 or 3 different microphones, but I end up using the AT4033 pretty often. Now, another important thing is the headphone bleed. If you've got a vocalist who comes in and has his headphones cranked up so loud that it's starting to come back through the microphone, that can be really difficult to work with and to edit and to mix. So I love it when someone comes in and they have in-ears. There's a lot of touring musicians now who have the in-ears, and then they put them in and you can't hear it through the microphone at all, and it's awesome. But if you're working with someone who doesn't have any in-ears, you've got to go with the headphones. Now there's two to three different types of headphones. You've got the kind that he's wearing right now, which is called closed back. The reason why it's called closed back is on the back of it, it's closed off, and so the sound doesn't come out of here. But when you have it like that, it will actually change the sound of the music in your ears, because it creates an environment around your ear. Now, if you've got semi-open, there's holes, and it allows the sound to kind of naturally spray out. Those are really bad to use for vocals because it naturally will bleed. And then the open back, of course, is not going to be good either. There are some techniques that you can use. If you get someone who doesn't like to use headphones at all, you can actually put speakers here. And then what you would do is you would record the sound of the song coming out of the speakers and going into the microphone with just the vocals just standing there. And then what you would do is take that and flip the phase. And then when you record the actual vocal take, you don't flip the phase, and then what it does is it cancels out those speakers going through the microphone. So that's actually how the Black Album was recorded, because James Hetfield said, I don't want to wear headphones, I just want to sing in the room. And so he had to figure out how to do it, and that's how they did it. Now, you're okay with using headphones, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so we've got the mic set at the right height, we've got the pop filter where we want it, and he's got the headphones, and I think pretty much that's the setup. It's pretty simple. Now we're kind of in a big room, so you're probably going to get a little bit of ambience in the actual signal, which is okay for today. But if I was attempting to actually record vocals, on an actual album, I would probably build a cage around you to stop some of the reflections and the ambience from getting into that mic. Because if you make a loud noise in here, actually kind of damp in here, but a lot of rooms have a lot of reverberation, and these cymbals and snare drum and things that will make noise as well. As you sing different notes, you can get some resonances in there. So, do we have any questions for this so far, you guys?
Could you go back over that process that you said, the flipping phase with speakers in the room?
Yeah, sure. So if you have a speaker in the room here, and that speaker is playing sound, and the sound's traveling and it's going to the microphone, if you actually just record that sound and then flip the phase of it, then combine it with the signal of him singing in front of the mic with the sound still coming through the air, then you will cancel out the speaker, but the new thing that's there, which is his voice, will stay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
So it's kind of a confusing concept at first, but once you try it, it makes sense. Because when you reverse the phase of one signal and combine it with the original, it completely cancels out. So if you do that twice, we do it once with him just standing there, and then once with him actually singing. The only thing that's different in the two takes is him singing. So then when you do phase reverse, it cancels out the speaker.
We had one question from online, Joey. Why do you have the mic set up upside down, and does that matter?
I just prefer to do it like that. It does not matter. The capsule is a circle, so it doesn't matter if you do it this way or that way.
I imagine if it's filtering air with the pop filter too, it's not going to catch as much.
Yeah, it kind of just makes more sense because we know that we know that this pop filter is going to throw the air down like this. So we just have nothing there. Now, if we did have the microphone flipped around, I think the air would come down, but it would hit the front of the microphone. It could reflect off, but I don't know how much that really matters. But I just prefer it like this. I think it's easier to manage, and also, you can get to the cable really easy, and you can change the switches and stuff as necessary. So I just like that.
Awesome.
Sweet. So let's talk about the next step, which is it's going to come out of the microphone and then go into the preamp. So then we'll go look at the preamp now.
Cool.
So all I'm doing is loading up a new input here on Cubase so I can actually see the signal coming in. And I might actually need you to say some stuff into the microphone just so I can hear the signal coming through.
I can head over.
Cool.